Get this sick old man out of my house. I don't want him near my children. Those words hit me like a sledgehammer to the chest. My daughter-in-law Catherine was talking about me to my son Benjamin that night, and he agreed. The next morning, Benjamin looked me in the eye and said, "Dad, you'd better leave." I'm Charles Morgan, 65 years old, and I silently packed my suitcase and left their house forever, but I took more than just my belongings with me. I took $11 million they never knew I had. Let me back up and explain how I got here. Started Morgan Auto Repair in 1983 when I was 23 years old, right after I got married to my late wife Sarah, had one bay, 2 lifts, and a dream to build something. Sarah believed in me even when I was working 80-hour weeks and we were eating beans and rice for dinner. Over 42 years, I built that single bay into a chain of 12 locations across the Tampa Bay area. Morgan Auto Repair became the name people trusted when their cars broke down. I hired good mechanics, treated customers right, and reinvested every penny back into the business. Sarah was my bookkeeper, my partner, my everything. When she passed from cancer 6 years ago, I lost more than my wife. I lost my reason for building the empire. The business felt empty without her sitting at the front desk, greeting customers with that smile that made everyone feel like family, so I sold it. The whole chain, 12 locations, loyal customer base, trained mechanics, and all. A regional corporation offered me $6.8 million in 2019. I took it. But here is what Benjamin and Catherine never knew. I didn't blow that money on a fancy retirement. I invested it carefully. Municipal bonds, S&P index funds, a few rental properties I picked up cheap during the pandemic. With proper management and a little luck, $6.8 million became $11 million over 5 years. The diagnosis folder sat on my passenger seat as I drove to their house that evening 3 months ago. Heart failure, moderate stage. The doctor said 15 to 20 years with proper management. Not ideal, but manageable for a 65-year-old hod been through worse building a business from nothing. I pulled into the driveway of the house I'd helped them buy. Catherine's white BMW sat gleaming in the evening light next to Benjamin's Audi. The house looked perfect, all modern lines and expensive landscaping. My $75,000 gift for their down payment had made this possible, though they thought it was everything I had left after selling what they believed was just one struggling shop. For 3 years, I'd been playing a role, the struggling widower father, living in their converted garage apartment, handing over $2,500 every month for household expenses. They accepted it like rent from a tenant, which I suppose I was, but I wasn't broke. I was testing them. Inside, my granddaughter Emily, 9 years old, with her mother's sharp eyes, was setting the dining room table with careful precision. My grandson Nathan, 7, was racing toy cars across the living room hardwood floors, making engine noises that echoed off the high ceilings. Grandpa. Nathan abandoned his cars and launched himself at my legs. I caught him feeling the familiar ache in my lower back that reminded me I wasn't getting any younger. Easy there? Speed racer. I ruffled his sandy hair, the same color mine used to be before it went gray. Where's your dad? Office, Emily said, without looking up from arranging the silverware. Precise that one. Already learning efficiency from watching her mother manage their household like a business operation, Benjamin emerged from his home office wearing his weekend casual uniform, expensive polo shirt, designer jeans that probably cost more than I used to make in a week when I started the shop. At 39, had inherited my height and my stubborn jaw, but none of the work ethic that built our family's wealth. Marketing consultant, whatever that meant in today's economy. He made decent money, around $90,000 a year, but spent more than he earned, always had even as a kid. I bailed him out of credit card debt twice in his 20s, helped him with his first car payment, covered his wedding costs when he overspent on the reception. Hey Dad, how was the doctor's appointment? I held up the manila folder, keeping my expression neutral. Got the results. His face flickered with something. Hard to tell if it was genuine concern or just the polite interest you show when someone mentions bad weather. These days, I couldn't read him anymore. Let's talk after dinner, I said, wanting to observe them at their most natural first. Catherine appeared from the kitchen, like she'd been waiting for her cue, blonde hair pulled back in a perfect ponytail, wearing those $200 yoga clothes that made up most of her wardrobe. At 37, she maintained herself with the dedication of someone terrified of aging, all organic skincare and boutique fitness classes. She glanced at the folder in my hand, then at me, then looked away quickly. Dinner's ready. Kids, go wash your hands. We sat down to grilled chicken, roasted vegetables, and quinoa. Catherine's cooking was competent and joyless, every meal carefully calculated for optimal nutrition and Instagram-worthy presentation. She documented everything on social media, the perfectly plated meals, the beautiful house, the adorable children. Their life looked flawless online. So Benjamin said, cutting his chicken into identical pieces the way he'd done since childhood. What did the doctor say? I'd rehearsed this moment, planned my words carefully. Heart failure, moderate stage. I let those words hang in the air, watching their faces. Sounds frightening, but it's manageable with medication and lifestyle changes. The cardiologist was actually optimistic. Said I could have 15 to 20 years with proper care. Catherine's fork paused halfway to her mouth. A piece of quinoa balanced precariously on the tines. That's concerning, Charles. You'll need to be very careful now. Her eyes darted to Benjamin for just a second, a glance I wasn't supposed to notice, but he'd been watching for tells like this for 3 years, cataloging every micro-expression, every moment of impatience they tried to hide. Yeah, Dad, that's tough news, Benjamin said, reaching for his water glass. Make sure you follow the doctor's orders exactly, empty words, sympathetic but distant, like he was commenting on a stranger's misfortune. No questions about treatment options, no offer to drive me to future appointments, no discussion of how this might affect our living situation. Just perfunctory concern and an immediate reach for his phone to check messages. Emily looked up from her plate with wide, worried eyes. Are you going to be okay, Grandpa? I'm fine, sweetheart. I smiled at her, meaning it. Just means I need to take better care of myself. Maybe cut back on the ice cream. She giggled, and for a moment I remembered why I was fighting so hard to protect these children's future. Benjamin, did you finish the Henderson project proposal? Catherine asked, smoothly steering the conversation away from my health. Just like that, my diagnosis was dismissed, filed away like an inconvenient piece of mail. Benjamin launched into details about his latest marketing campaign, while Catherine nodded and asked engaged questions. They discussed timelines, budgets, client expectations with the enthusiasm they'd never shown for my medical news. I ate my chicken and memorized every word of their conversation, every dismissive glance, every moment they prioritized work gossip over their father's health crisis. After dinner, I excused myself to my converted garage apartment. The space was small, barely 300 square feet, with just enough room for my bed, dresser, and a single chair by the window. They'd cleared out Catherine's exercise equipment to make room for me when I moved in, and I could still see the faint outlines on the concrete floor where her Peloton bike used to sit. I opened the top drawer of my dresser where 12 identical envelopes sat in neat rows, one for each month of the year. I prepared this month's contribution 3 days ago, counting out 25 crisp $100 bills. For 3 years, I'd handed over $2,500 every month like clockwork. $90,000 total so far, money I could have spent on a comfortable retirement condo or world travel. Instead, it invested it in this test. Back in the main house, Benjamin was loading the dishwasher, scraping plates with mechanical efficiency. I handed him the envelope without ceremony. This month's contribution, he took it without looking inside, without even a pause in his dish-loading routine. Thanks, Dad. Not even pretending gratitude anymore. Just muscle memory, like accepting a paycheck head earned. The transaction felt as cold as buying groceries from a stranger. I retreated to my small space and sat on the edge of my bed, listening through the thin walls as they moved through their evening routine. Catherine's heels clicked across the hardwood as she checked locks and turned off lights. Benjamin's shower ran for exactly 8 minutes. He was precise about everything except the things that mattered. The sounds of their voices carried from the bedroom, muffled but growing sharper. I tried to ignore it at first, telling myself their private conversations were none of my business, but something in the tone made me stand up, move closer to the door. My hand found the doorknob. Some instinct told me this mattered, that I needed to hear whatever was coming next. I opened my door quietly and stepped into the dim hallway. Down the corridor, yellow light leaked under their bedroom door, like a warning. The voices grew clearer, more distinct. Benjamin's voice came first, defensive and weak. Jenny, keep your voice down. The kids might hear. The kids will be fine. Catherine's voice cut through the walls like a blade. We need to talk about your father. I stood frozen in the hallway, my heart hammering against my ribs. The medical diagnosis had triggered something, and I was about to learn what I'm done, Benjamin. Completely done. Her voice carried a rage Edie never heard directed at me, though Ede suspected it lived beneath her yoga calm exterior. Done with what? Benjamin asked, though his tone suggested he already knew. Get that sick old man out of my house. I don't want him around my children with his diseases. He's dragging us down, Benjamin. Can't you see that? The words hit like physical blows. Sick old man, my house, dragging us down, each phrase carefully chosen to wound. Jenny has my father. Where's he supposed to go? I don't care. A nursing home, an assisted living facility, anywhere but here. We gave him a place when he needed it, and now he needs to figure out his own situation, especially now with his heart problems. Her voice grew stronger, more confident as she laid out her case. What if he dies here, Benjamin? What if the kids find him collapsed in that garage? Did you think about that? The trauma, the mess we'd have to deal with, every word dripped with disgust that couldn't be faked or manufactured for effect. This was her truth, finally surfacing after 3 years of polite tolerance. He pays $2,500 a month. Benjamin tried weakly, grasping for any argument that might slow her down. Catherine's laugh was harsh and bitter. $2,500? Benjamin, this house costs us $4,200 monthly in mortgage payments alone. That doesn't include utilities, food, insurance, maintenance. He's barely covering half his actual burden, and now he's sick on top of it. I pressed my back against the hallway wall, processing each calculated word. Shud done the math, weighed my financial contribution against the inconvenience of my presence, and found me lacking. No, she continued with finality. Absolutely not. I want him out. 1 week, Benjamin. I want him gone in 1 week. The silence that followed felt eternal. I waited for my son to defend me, to show some backbone, to channel even a fraction of the man Eid tried to raise him to be. Okay? The word came out small and defeated. Okay, I'll tell him tomorrow. Just please stop yelling. I stepped backward into my room and closed the door with careful silence, my hands shaking as I released the knob. I stood in the darkness for a long time, not turning on the light, not moving to the bed, just absorbing the full weight of what I'd heard. 3 years of monthly cash payments. 3 years of making myself smaller, quieter, less inconvenient. 3 years of testing whether their love for me was real or transactional. I had my answer. I moved to my closet and pushed aside the hanging shirts I'd been wearing for 3 years. Simple clothes, nothing expensive, maintaining the image of a man getting by on a small pension. On the top shelf, hidden behind winter coats I rarely needed in Florida, sat a small lockbox. Inside were bank statements I'd kept carefully hidden, investment portfolio summaries, property deeds, tax documents from the business sale. The most recent statement showed $11,247,000, give or take the daily interest that accumulated while I played the role of grateful dependent. I sat on my narrow bed and didn't sleep that night. Memories flooded back, paying for Benjamin's college education, $180,000 over 4 years. The investment property I'd helped him buy in his 20s, then helped him sell when he mismanaged it into debt. His wedding that went $30,000 over budget because Catherine wanted the reception at the country club. Car payments, credit card bailouts, the endless stream of financial assistance I'd provided over the years. All of it building not gratitude, but expectation. Not love, but entitlement. When morning light finally crept under my door, I'd processed the betrayal into something harder, clearer, more useful. I dressed, splashed water on my face, and emerged to find Benjamin making coffee with exaggerated concentration, like a man rehearsing his lines. Morning, Dad. He couldn't meet my eyes, kept his attention fixed on measuring coffee grounds with scientific precision. Morning, Benjamin. We stood in uncomfortable silence. Catherine swept through the kitchen like a woman with purpose, grabbed her phone and keys, and disappeared again. The kids were still asleep. This confrontation was meant to be private. Benjamin cleared his throat, took a sip of coffee, then set the mug down with trembling hands. Dad, I've been thinking, maybe it would be better for your health if you had your own place. You know, more independence, less stress on your system. Every word sounded rehearsed but poorly delivered. He stared at his coffee mug like it held answers to life's mysteries. We'll give you a week to make arrangements. Something in my tone when I responded must have surprised him. My voice came out cold, controlled, nothing like the grateful father he expected. I understand completely, Benjamin. He glanced up sharply, maybe expecting protest, tears, pleading. Instead, he got acceptance that should have terrified him more than anger ever could. I walked to my room and pulled my suitcase from under the bed. As I began folding clothes with deliberate precision, I could hear Catherine's voice through the walls, bright with relief. He's actually packing already. I thought we'd have to argue with him for days. I continued folding shirts, pants, everything I'd need. Around me sat boxes, that I never fully unpacked in 3 years, as if some part of me had always known this day would come. I just needed to understand why. By midday, I was sitting among half-packed belongings, holding a photo from Benjamin's college graduation. The ceremony I'd paid for, the degree I'd funded, watching him walk across that stage with such pride. I set the photo face down in a box. My phone lay on the nightstand. I picked it up and opened my private banking app, entering the security codes I'd memorized. 11,247,000 stared back at me in bold numbers. unchanged by their rejection, undiminished by their cruelty. I opened my real estate app and typed carefully, Tampa luxury homes, $500,000 plus. The screen filled with properties, waterfront estates, modern mansions, renovated historical homes, each listing more impressive than the house I'd helped them buy with what they thought was my life savings. For the first time since the previous night, I smiled. Cold, calculating, but genuine. They wanted the sick old man out of their house. They had no idea what house the old man could afford. I called Margaret Wilson, the estate planning attorney I'd worked with when I sold the business. We'd crafted careful structures to protect my assets, and now it was time to activate those plans. Margaret, it's Charles Morgan. I need you to make a phone call to my son, Benjamin. It's time he learned a few things about his father's finances. I see, she said slowly, understanding immediately that this wasn't routine legal work. When would you like to schedule this meeting today if possible? Tomorrow at the latest, and Margaret, I want you to have all the documentation ready. Portfolio statements, property deeds, tax records from the business sale. I want him to see every dollar, every asset total. Maximum impact, she said. Exactly, I want him to understand what he threw away when he threw me out. While Margaret arranged the meeting, I continued packing. Each item felt symbolic, the clothes I'd worn while testing their character, the books I'd read during long evenings in their house, the photo albums filled with memories of better times. By evening, my belongings were neatly sorted: keep, donate, store. The life I'd built in their garage apartment reduced to 3 categories, ready for whatever came next. Benjamin knocked on my door around 9 p.m., probably sent by Catherine to check my progress. How's it going, Dad? Need any help? His offer felt hollow, perfunctory, like asking if someone needs help with a task you hope they'll refuse. Fine. Should be ready to leave by Thursday. Thursday, that's only 2 days. Are you sure you found a place already? The concern in his voice might have been genuine, or maybe he was just worried about the timeline Catherine had given him. I've got it handled, Benjamin. Don't worry about your sick old man. I used Catherine's exact words deliberately, watched him flinch as he recognized them. He knew I'd heard something, but not how much. The uncertainty would eat at him until Margaret's meeting revealed the truth. That Thursday morning, I loaded my belongings into a moving truck I'd hired. Benjamin left early for work, avoiding the awkwardness of goodbye. Catherine took the kids to school, then disappeared to her yoga class. I was grateful for the solitude during my final hour in their house. I walked through each room one last time, the dining room where I'd revealed my diagnosis to faces that couldn't hide their inconvenience. The living room where Emily and Nathan played while their parents discussed my unworthiness. The kitchen where I'd handed over $90,000 in cash over 3 years, watching gratitude calcify into expectation. Before leaving, I placed a sealed envelope on their kitchen table. Inside, a brief note: thank you for your hospitality these 3 years. I found new housing and will be out by noon today. Don't trouble yourselves about the sick old man anymore. The envelope contains this month's contribution. Dad, beside the note, I left my final payment, $2,500 in crisp hundreds. My last gift to their education. The drive to my new home took 20 minutes through neighborhoods that reminded me why I'd chosen Tampa 40 years ago. Trees, water, possibilities. ID closed on a $580,000 house in West Shore the previous day. Cash purchase, no financing, record time. My real estate agent, Rebecca White, had never seen anything like it. Most buyers take weeks to decide, Shed said. You made an offer after a single viewing. Not most buyers, I'd replied. The house looked even better in morning light. Modern design, white stone and glass, gated driveway, mature landscaping. 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, office space with bay views. My gate, my driveway, my home, the movers worked efficiently. Within 2 hours, they'd transferred my life from their garage to my proper home. I tipped them $500 cash and watched their eyebrows rise. That afternoon, Benjamin sat in Margaret Wilson's downtown office. Shed called him that morning. I need you to come in regarding your father's estate planning. Today, if possible. Margaret started professionally. Mr. Morgan, thank you for coming. I'm handling your father's estate planning, and he wanted you informed of certain assets. Benjamin looked confused. Assets? Dad sold his shop years ago. He's been living with us because Margaret slid the first document across her polished desk. Investment portfolio statement, my name at the top, balance clearly displayed, $11,247,000. Your father owns an investment portfolio currently valued at approximately $11 million. Benjamin stared at the paper. Margaret later told me his face went completely blank, like a computer screen freezing mid-task. 11 million. I'm sorry, what? She showed him more documents. Property deed for my new house. Bank statements, tax records from the business sale showing $6.8 million, not the modest sum had imagined. But he was living with us. Benjamin's voice came out hoarse. He gave us money every month because he couldn't afford. Margaret's delivery was clinical, devastating. Pro fee 500 from $11 million. Pennies from a fortune. Your father sold Morgan Auto Repair, all 12 locations, for $6.8 million in 219. He invested wisely. He has never needed financial assistance. Those monthly contributions were his choice, not necessity. Benjamin sat motionless for a full minute, processing the implications. Every assumption about his struggling father, every justification for asking me to leave crumbling under mathematical reality. Previously, Margaret continued, you were designated as sole beneficiary of your father's estate. He wanted you to know his reconsidering that arrangement. Benjamin left her office moving like a sleepwalker. My phone started ringing that evening, text after text, voicemail after voicemail. Benjamin's voice cracked through the speakers. Dad, please call me. We need to talk. I had no idea about your finances. Please let me explain. Catherine's messages grew increasingly frantic. Charles, the kids miss you. Please come for dinner. We can work this out. I deleted each message without responding. 3 weeks later, they received certified mail from Margaret's office. Legal demand for immediate repayment of the $75,000 down payment loan, plus accumulated interest. $95,000 total, due within 60 days. The promissory note Benjamin had signed without reading, trusting his father. Now that trust had a price, they tried everything: banks, credit unions, family loans. The house already had a lien. No one would lend additional money. Catherine's Instagram empire collapsed as word spread about the heartless daughter-in-law who had kicked out her sick father-in-law. Benjamin's work performance suffered under the stress. 8 weeks later, they'd scraped together $47,000, still $48,000 short with 2 weeks remaining. That's when they wrote the letter, both of them sitting in what used to be my garage apartment. A complete apology admitting their cruelty, ingratitude, and materialism. I read it twice in my Bayview office, then called Margaret, set up a meeting. I'm ready to discuss terms. The coffee shop overlooked Tampa Bay. I arrived exactly on time to find them waiting, ordered coffee, and sat down without greeting. I failed you, Benjamin said first. When you got sick, I threw you away. I'm sorry. Catherine's tears were genuine this time. Charles, I said terrible things. We're selfish people who didn't deserve you. I asked the question Iddy planned, are you apologizing because I'm a millionaire or because what you did was wrong? Both, Catherine admitted. I wish it was only the second, but it'd be lying. Her honesty surprised me. I slid typed terms across the table. Debt forgiveness for $48,000, family therapy for 6 months, public apology to extended family and permanent changes to my will. They'd inherit $100,000 total after my death instead of millions. The bulk would go to charity and trust funds for Emily and Nathan. Accept these terms or face bankruptcy. 48 hours to decide. 2 days later, Benjamin called. We accept. All of it. Now I meet Emily and Nathan every Saturday at our coffee shop. Supervised visits, my terms. Last week, Nathan asked Grandpa, are we allowed to love you again? I knelt to his eye level. You never stopped being allowed to love me, buddy. I volunteer now, mentoring entrepreneurs, living quietly in my Bayview home. Justice served, lessons taught, family boundaries established. Not the sick old man they wanted gone. The man who chose justice over revenge and found peace in the truth. Money doesn't buy love, but it reveals who truly loves you, and sometimes that truth is worth every penny you thought you'd lost. I learned that family isn't just blood, it's respect, loyalty, and choosing each other even when it's inconvenient. Some lessons cost $11 million to teach, but dignity is priceless.